just show you what thermography is. That's a completely normal thermogram. 52-year-old lady, 53 years old, breastfed children, completely normal. Black is cold, then shades of blue, yellow, red. Bit of thyroid problem up there. Completely normal. There's a right-sided breast cancer. Stands out like a sore thumb. That lady had completely normal mammograms and ultrasounds. In fact, in the end, I went to the radiologist and I said, if this woman hasn't got breast cancer, I'll sell the camera back to America, $40,000. They got a bit worried and sent her for an MRI, and that picked up the cancer. I want to cover what I'm now involved in, and have been for the past 5 years, because it's yet another extension of how dentistry is involved. This lady, 53 years old, she had breast cancer, 6 root-filled teeth, 4 of them happened to be on the breast acupuncture meridian. So what are her chances of not getting cancer? She also had amalgams and crown and bridge. And that x-ray was passed by a top dentist and oral surgeons being okay. But hey, even I can see the problems, plus all the metallurgy. Here's another one, breast cancer, 4 root-filled teeth, 13 amalgams and 3 crowns. Huge problem. I get a patient with an abnormal thermogram that's deteriorating. She's heading towards breast cancer, and they've got that in their mouth. What am I supposed to do? Because it's pretty devastating to the patient to think that I'm going to get breast cancer unless I have all this dealt with. That's huge, huge cost. Psychological as well. But this is where we can combine the two professions. That's a completely normal thermogram. She happened to be one of my staff. All my staff are female for some reason. And when I got the camera, everybody had thermograms done. 2 years later, I suggested we ought to do them again, and we got a nasty surprise in this nurse. She had a very nasty-looking right breast, which was typical, in fact, of a DCIS, a disseminated ductal carcinoma. The nipple temperature had gone right up to over 1 degree, 1.3. So we intervened. We instigated measures which consisted of removal of the root-filled tooth, had to be on breast meridian as well. She had her amalgams removed. She went on vitamin C, selenium, DIM, Mullimen, homeopathic. 3 months later, looking better. 6 months later, looking even better. Nipple temperature down to 0.3, so normal. So before March it was that, and 1 year later it was that. Basically by including some dentistry and a few other bits and pieces, but the main thing was dentistry. So we've got a tool here with thermal imaging that can make inroads into the commonest form of cancer in women.
I began to become aware of research regarding the toxicity associated with a root canal tooth probably 8 or 9 years ago. Some very good research was coming from the University of Kentucky by a very well-known biochemist regarding the toxicity associated with root canal teeth. I could hardly believe that when I began to read it, and then, quite frankly, I went to see that biochemist and see the research, and I became convinced that root canal teeth, a dead tooth, truly has a toxicity associated with it that I think can so influence our systemic health that I could no longer do a root canal in good conscience.
You know, there's no other place in the body that we leave something that's dead. If there's any place else in the body that you have something that dies and that is no longer receiving a good blood supply, we know in the medical community that you have to remove that part of the body because it's not healthy.
We've been conducting our own study regarding root canal teeth. This particular study deals only with the very best root canal teeth, perfect on x-ray and asymptomatic. In excess of 98% have tested severely to extremely toxic. So we're talking about teeth that have toxicities, quite frankly, that make toxins like botulism toxin, tetanus toxin. Those toxins look pale in comparison with the toxins associated with root canal teeth. We happen to see in this office people who have had a root canal and only within weeks then be diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And there's nothing else that they can point to. So they begin to think, could it possibly have been the root canal? Even though that's frustrating, oftentimes we find that people's health really improves when you eliminate the toxicities associated with dentistry.